Hello everybody, thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Henry III was just 9 years old when he became King of England in 1216. His father, King John, had famously made a hash of ruling, which led to Magna Carta. Because of his father, it was no sure thing that Henry would succeed. So dire had John's reign become that the barons had invited Prince Louis of France to come over and take the throne. John scrambled to keep hold of the throne, but things plummeted to a new low when he attempted to cross the Wash estuary and lost his crown jewels. Not long after, John fell ill and died. Henry did take the throne, although Louis didn't give up his claim until the following year of 1217, when he was finally defeated at the Battle of Lincoln by the aging but still brilliant William Marshal. Louis would simply have to content himself with becoming King of France instead. He did so in 1223, where he ruled as Louis VIII, although he only reigned for 3 years. Henry was still only a boy and thereby required regents to act on his behalf, with William Marshal being the most senior man in the kingdom. Marshal, however, died in 1219, and it would be up to others to steer Henry through his early years as king. Henry's reign proved to be a long one, 56 years. Unfortunately, he failed to learn from his father's mistakes. Henry was particularly bad at handling money. One of his worst ideas was putting his son, Edmund, on the throne of Sicily, which never came to pass, but was an idea that Henry struggled to let go of. Henry and the papacy, who had urged Henry to pursue the matter, became embroiled in Sicilian politics, and Henry found himself owing large amounts of money to the Pope. Henry also vowed to go on crusade, and he raised large amounts of money for what would be an expensive venture. However, this money would be diverted as the king needed to put out trouble in Gascony. The citizens there had grown fed up of the heavy-handed rule of a certain Simon de Montfort, the king's brother-in-law. Huge amounts were spent in dealing with the problems in Gascony, but relations between Henry and de Montfort went into rapid decline. Henry was angry at Simon and told him that he had been informed of some of Simon de Montfort's crude behaviour. However, Simon could point towards a growing unrest at the king's rule. In the 1260s, things would break out into a full-blown civil war. Henry's wife was a woman by the name of ELEANOR of Provence. The two were close, and the king gave his queen expensive gifts, and in return, Eleanor served the king with loyalty, especially in his struggle against Simon de Montfort. However, Eleanor was not popular with either the barons or the general population. She had brought into the English royal court a whole host of both close and distant family members who enriched themselves. Eleanor's reputation sunk to such a low that on one occasion she was attacked by the people of London whilst she was sailing up the River Thames. Henry was a deeply pious man, and he particularly venerated Edward the Confessor. Undoubtedly, Henry's most enduring legacy was his rebuilding of Westminster Abbey, originally built by Edward himself. Henry's rather grand tomb can be found at the Abbey next to his sons and successors, Edward I. Edward's tomb is rather more modest. In 1264, the feud with Simon de Montfort finally came to a head. The two sides gathered their forces and met at the Battle of Lewes. Henry was confident as he had the larger army, but that confidence soon disappeared. The royal army was defeated, and even worse, Henry's heir, Prince Edward, was captured and taken into captivity. Henry, in effect, was deposed, and for the next year, Simon was effectively king. It was only thanks to the prince making a dramatic escape from captivity that Henry was rescued from this embarrassment. Under the more warlike leadership of Prince Edward, the royal forces galvanised themselves and routed Simon de Montfort's men at the Battle of Evesham in 1265. Here, Simon was cut to pieces. It's perhaps telling that Edward, unlike Henry, actually did go on crusade. Henry III died in 1272. I believe he had visions of achieving greatness. His plans for crusade, conquering Sicily, his reconstruction of Westminster Abbey, and perhaps even simply his stunning tomb at the Abbey itself, speak of a man who believed highly in his royal dignity. Unfortunately for Henry, aside from his numerous building projects, he had very little to show for his grand plans. He incurred huge debts, caused a civil war, and had even been deposed, albeit briefly. He was truly his father's son.